This is CRM Audio, the Microsoft Business Applications podcast with MVPs Joel Lindstrom and George Doubinski. This episode is brought to you by Dynamics 365 User Group. D365 UG is the world's most influential user group community of Microsoft Dynamics 365 and CRM users and partners. Across the globe, members share a common goal of maximizing and advancing the performance of Microsoft Dynamics 365 and CRM so that individuals and companies can improve operations, overcome obstacles, and exceed goals. We thank Dynamics 365 User Group for sponsoring CRM Audio, the Microsoft Business Applications podcast.
Well, George, I know we just talked the other day, but I had something breaking news since the last episode, so I thought we should do a little update here. And that is...
Good afternoon.
Good evening. And I had the chance to play with Dynamics 365 version 9 on premise and verified a few things. There were a few things I wasn't able to find in the documentation, and so I wanted to really put my eyes and fingers on it, just to so I could accurately recommend it to people. And so I did that, and I've got to say I am impressed. You know, I thought there would be more differences between the two platforms, but in looking at it, it's basically version 9.0.2 on premises, meaning you've got virtual entities, you've got unified interface. Now, granted, those things are the older version of that, but still, it's I verified that it really is 9.0.2 on premises.
Okay. And this is episode 101.
This is, yeah, I guess so. This is, or this is a special update episode. 100.B.
.6348. Or whatever our build number is these days.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? If you ask me, I don't know, 6 months ago, I would be all over it. But remember I said that I switched off the lights on the data center, and meaning that I no longer have any on-premises installs. So, but I'm curious how people surviving and what the strategy is to move forward. Like 9.02 from memory, it did miss a few things in unified interface. So how's that working out?
Yeah, there's a few things, specifically the hybrid experience with advanced find isn't there. And that's the big thing I think that, you don't want to say, oh, we can just stay on premises now, because there's definitely things with online that are better. We already have a newer experience. But here's why I think this matters. I think if you looked at the total number of Dynamics deployments of CRM or customer engagement, we probably have at least half of them that are still on premises. I think in the last 2 years, the vast majority have been online, but there's still a lot of on-premises customers out there. And so it's in our favor. It's in our favor as a community as well as Microsoft's to have people able to use the newer technology. Meaning, if you have people still on 2011 or 2015 on premises, that gives Dynamics a bad name. And it's
before we jump into details, out of the figures that you mentioned, like the number of on-premises installations, what is actually net new customers? So what percentage of new customers actually going on premises as opposed to online? I understand historical, yeah.
I'm just thinking of my experience with the deployments that we do, and I think we maybe had one net new on-premises deployment in the last year, and 99.9% of the rest were all online.
So that translates that Hitachi Solutions had 1,000 customers. Thank you.
Round numbers.
Okay. So, for on-prem, before you even start, looking into things, I'm just curious, what are the requirements? What
for V9 on premises?
Yeah, like what monster machines you need to have to get it off the ground in the first place.
So I'm running it off of a VM that Chris Cognetta helped me set up, actually. So thank you, Chris. You saved me time on this. But based on Chris's input here, it requires Windows 2016 and SQL 2016. And he said that you can't even get it to install if you don't have a minimum of 4 cores. So most people are going to have to upgrade their infrastructure if they want to stay on premises with version 9.
4 cores, that's for the single machine install, which is unsupported.
Yeah, that was a single machine install. Yeah, right.
Which is not supported.
Right. Right.
Right.
But if you want to play with it. But again, I don't know compared to V8 8.2, I don't know how much more beefy that is. I think it's the SQL 2016 and Windows 2016 minimum requirement that are going to mean people aren't going to just upgrade their servers in place.
So that would be ADFS 4.0 with all the related changes and things like that. So if people do use kind of proper split infrastructure at the moment, I'm not sure if it's going to fall back. ADFS 3 should be fine. I have not tried it, but SQL, it's probably the biggest requirement. So if people don't have it and they run 2012 or 2014, then 2016 would be a big change for those companies. I'm just curious. I mean, to me, even if I recommend customers that they run on-prem, I still advocate setting up VMs in Azure, or if they firmly in AWS shop, then AWS virtual machines, but setting them up there so you don't have to actually manage the machines themselves, and you have availability, you have backups and things like that. But totally appreciate that larger companies might have already infrastructure in place that they want to use, reuse, and continue using. So that's definitely a factor. Or on-prem data sources, like legacy data sources or other data sources that only available on-prem. So certainly. So where do you see the biggest change? If I'm using 8.2, what would be the biggest change for me or biggest advantage for me to move to 9.0?
I'll tell you specifically what I'm thinking about, and I'm not thinking about there's going to be a rush of net new on-premises deployments with version 9. But here's a scenario where I have at least 3 or 4 customers like this, where they're on a legacy version of CRM. They've been going for 5 years. They've got a lot of integrations, a lot of reports, and these pieces use methods that aren't supported in the cloud, like T-SQL-based reports or stored procedures in their database or integrations that directly access the base tables. Any one of those scenarios, if you have a lot of that stuff to go to the cloud, it requires you to do a lot of rework. And so that's why sometimes it's not practical to go from, say, CRM 2015 to the cloud. There's some steps you want to take in the meanwhile. This lets somebody get cloud ready, meaning get your configuration on and your solutions on version 9, update your technology, make your solution basically ready just to port over to online, and then be working on updating these other pieces to, say, fetch XML reports, or updating your integrations, and that can present a way to give your users, if you want users to start using unified interface, if you want to start leveraging virtual entities. And I think the virtual entities idea is cool because one of the problems is people have too much data in on-premises. And so now we've got virtual entities on-premises. We can basically use that to start offloading some of the heavy data integrations to virtual entities and then make their move to the cloud much lighter.
That's interesting. Have you actually played with virtual entities in that build?
No, it came out. It came out last week. We have done some things. Andrew Butenko did an integration to Zendesk with it, and some of our integration folks have done some things. I think we've got one or two deployments that are actually using virtual entities. I know for a fact we've got at least two or three.
I just wonder if it's possible to lift solution from the online and import it into on-prem, considering that if you have 9.02 in online.
I don't believe you can go from 9.1 to 9.0.2.
No, that wouldn't be possible, but from 9.0, if you still have something hanging around and you build in that.
Right.
Because 9.1, that's the latest. That's kind of October release. Surely you have instances prior to that.
But the other thing I'm thinking of, this is a plus for ISVs, because having on-premise be so far behind on version 8 and then online be on version 9, I have a solution to both on-premises and online. They've got to either maintain two versions or hold it back on the older version. So I'm thinking if I'm Click Dimensions or something, this opens up the door for me to update my solution. Now, I don't know if they probably wouldn't want to do this because they do have customers that are on 2011 and 2013, 2015. But if you were an ISV and you wanted to create one version that worked on premises online, you could, if you said you got to be on version 9 as a minimum, you could bring in some of the new capabilities.
So let's go back to the features. So Advanced Find is not available, right?
In Unified Interface, right.
In Unified Interface. So what do you think about the statement I made when people started complaining about the lack of Advanced Find? I basically said that if you rely on Advanced Find as a crucial break it or make it feature for your deployment, you're not designing your system right.
Right.
So my point being is that if you design the system properly and your app properly, then Advanced Find is such a rare exception. It shouldn't be a norm for a user to use Advanced Find. It's a helpful feature, but you shouldn't rely on it, and you should avoid it, in fact, if you can.
Right. No, I'm with you on that, because I can't remember the last end user I've seen actually using Advanced Find well. I've seen some that are using it to, say, add a column or two. If you go that far, it's good, but especially when you get into the related entities, it's not intuitive. And quick search or filtering are definitely better options.
So what else you can tell us about 9.02?
Well, I think another thing that, and this wouldn't apply to everybody, but one thing I'm kind of excited about is I've got some on-premises customers who can't use the mobile app. And there's various reasons for that. Maybe they use a mobile, they use a mobile iron or some kind of an MDM solution to push out the app. And if the Dynamics app isn't supported by that, they make them use the browser. And with 8.2, you still get Mobile Express. The fact that with V9 on premises as well as online, if you in Safari on your iPhone go to Dynamics, you get the same experience as if you load the app. And to me, that's a really big one, because that lets me give people full functionality in those limited mobile situations where they can't load the app. And as well, people using the app get a much better experience with Unified Interface than they do with the Mocha experience.
Okay. That's true. The mobile offline story aside, the mobile is probably the biggest advantage I've seen in using version 9. What about first-party solutions like field service.
There is an on-premises version of field service. There actually was an on-premises version of field service in version 8. I don't know enough to talk about the ins and outs. Like, I don't know what the scheduling experience is on-premises versus online. It's definitely, we've already had like 2 or 3 releases of field service online with version 9. So I'm sure that it's not the latest and greatest.
I understand that. I'm more interested in unified resource scheduling rather than field service itself. So I wonder if upgrade to 9 on premises would open door for the use of unified resource scheduling.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's got the unified resource scheduling, but there again, probably not the latest version. And of course, there's no voice of the customer or social engagement or project or PSA or any of those other solutions.
Well, if you ask me, last one, not a big loss. Though they did get update to version 3, it's being rolled out, and apparently it solves lots and lots of problems, particularly in customization areas that people complained about. So, right. Version 3 is being rolled out. That's the latest on PSA, because the biggest complaint and the reason why I personally discarded it for the couple projects where it would have made sense is that it was lacking customization capabilities. So it's kind of our way or highway. So if your model fits into what's out of the box, great. But if you need to customize anything, that was really, really difficult, and you end up buried in code up to your neck, supporting your customizations, plus half of them would be unsupported. So version 3 apparently addresses a lot of these issues. So I would be curious to take a look at it. So what's your recommendation like for people who are involved in online? Download, install, and play with it. What's like rationale behind playing with it? It's 9.02. We've been there already. Is there something that is specific for on-prem as opposed to the same version in online deployment?
No, I would say if you are an on-premises customer staying on premises, I would recommend you download it, do a test upgrade of your environment. You can go to the Download Center of Microsoft. I'll put a link in the show notes. You can download it, install it, and that's where you would want to play with it. Is if you are an on-premises user, want to evaluate your customizations in version 9.0. If you're already online or you're or something like that, there's no reason to pay any attention to this. But if you're a partner that has customers that are both online or on premises, I'd recommend you download it and go through the installation process, see how that goes, so you can give your clients recommendations.
One of concerns of mine is that we are going to see gaps, and not so much in functionality, because that can catch up, right? So let's say there's some features in 9.1. Eventually, they could make it on premises, so that's not a big deal. Where I see gap is growing, and I'm not sure how Microsoft is going to fill in this gap, is in maker experience, right? Mm-hmm. Because maker experience slowly is being transferred to Power Apps portals. How many of them? I lost count, but some of the features you already can make only in Power Apps portal. Some of the features, for example, when you start bringing Flow and Power Apps into Canvas Power Apps into solutions, it may or may not be available depending on what environment you're using, but it will happen kind of this year, calendar year. So it's part of the October wave, let's call it that, which spreads over 3 months. But some of those components that are new components, they show up in the new experience, but the old Solution Explorer has limited capability to actually even display those. So currently there's a gap, like I think Flow is not visible in the classic Solution Explorer, and Power Canvas is not visible. So classic experience doesn't have any understanding of that. And that's where the gap will continue to grow as new features are added, new capabilities are added. What will happen to admin or customization experience on premises? Do you see something fundamental changing, something like, for example, you only can build solution in online and then you can import it to on-prem? Something like radical like that. So you won't be able to.
I don't know. I think you're dead on. I think the big shift is to the Power Platform, and with your on-premises, you're basically not part of the Power Platform, which means there's things you can't do on-premises that you can do online. Think of Canvas apps, think of Flow, and you might think, I don't care about that stuff, but we really think what that means, meaning there's a lot more business scenarios you can address with online than on premises, because we can connect to all these different services, so on and so forth. But the other thing is, you got to look at how intelligent online is becoming with the sales AI and the relationship insights and the email auto capture and all these things. I mean, the who knows who feature is really, really cool, and underscore it's North America only. But the fact I can be in my Dynamics, look at a contact and see somebody anywhere else in my Exchange domain, even if they're not part of my organization or not, it says this person knows George Doubinski because they've been emailing him. So have them give you a warm introduction. When you talk about things like sales or customer service, it's becoming night and day difference as far as the value that the system can give to users. If you think about it, if you have an empty system, you load some contacts into it and turn on the sales AI features, immediately it's giving the salespeople value. They're immediately seeing who knows different people. They're seeing emails in their inbox that they haven't tracked. So day one, they're getting value, where when you're on premises, you got to do a lot of work to get that same level of value. And that's besides the maker experience, that to me is the big difference here.
Well, now I know where the anonymous call came from 10 minutes ago. You probably heard the phone ring, and so now that explains it, because you know me and someone else knows you. Interesting. Do you see potentially sometime in the undefined future things similar to what happened to Azure would happen to a Power Platform? Azure has a notion of Azure Stack, where you can build effectively everything that Azure has to offer, with some exceptions, of course, on premises. And there are large customers, imagine like a oil drilling platform, which is kind of mini city in itself, that is out there remote. There is no kind of reliable connection to the cloud that is available at reasonable cost. So those installations would run their own Azure Stack, which is a set of Azure components designed to run kind of on your own infrastructure. So I'm thinking, what about if there was an offering of Power Platform Stack, where you can run all those things with some limitations, of course, but on your own infrastructure on premises? Would that solve the challenge of bringing in on-premises installations into the fold of the world of Canvas apps and Flow and things like that?
I think it would, and I mean the examples are there, and we've heard James Phillips say at Business Application Summit, there are business scenarios where you want something running locally. A store in a point of sale system, for example, there's reasons you want that to be running locally. Something running in a coal mine where there's no connectivity, you want that to be running locally. But I think Microsoft is really the only only major player out there that can deliver hybrid cloud. I mean, Google doesn't do it, Amazon doesn't do it, Salesforce doesn't do it. Microsoft is the only company with the ability to do that, and they've done it with Azure, they've done it with Microsoft 365. So I don't see why they couldn't do the same thing. And then you don't have that online versus on-premises discussion. It all leverages cloud services, but you can run it on-premises if you need to.
Well, if you're really desperate right now, or if you're in the need of something like that right now, you can run hybrids right now. So you can have your on-premises Dynamics installed, version 9.0.2, running almost the latest, pre-October stuff. And then you can have a hybrid connection to Azure, and you can use Azure authentication, and Flow could connect to your Dynamics as the data source. Some of the things won't be available, like, for example, triggering Flow on selected record, but generally speaking, you can kind of bypass it by creating your own webhooks and your own plugins and invoking Flow remotely. So that kind of opens it up, and then you can start bringing Canvas apps as well. So given a good connectivity between Azure and your on-prem, that kind of starts unfolding. And though you won't have all the capabilities, you will have your Dynamics as a reliable and good data source for all your adventures, online.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of an option. So honestly, I've got nothing. I haven't seen the release yet, but I'll be building. I won't borrow virtual machine, as tempting as it is. I'll probably bring my machine up in the cloud. I wish they would continue with LCS services. Did you have a chance to play with it?
With LCS services?
Yeah, about 3 years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, there was 3 years ago, 3.5, there was a preview program, LCS services. That's the services that are used in finance and operations world, right? So
right.
You can set up and manage your deployment in the cloud. There was a project where LCS services would manage your kind of semi-on-prem installation. So it would be on-premises deployment, but in the cloud, on the cloud infrastructure. What I did like about it, I didn't fancy the idea of, kind of using it as a step up or anything like that. What I did really, really like is that I could say, hey, look, I need a new Dynamics deployment. I want to follow best practices. This is my version. CRM at the time was 2015, so now I would say I want version 9.0.2. Here's my Azure subscription. Push the button and, go away. And a few hours later, when I come back, there would be a perfect 3-server deployment rolled out with the, virtual machines up to scratch, all pre-configured, all pre-installed, dancing and singing and what's not. I only go in and I would just configure, specific stuff for the customer. But other than that, it's all there, AD deployed, and, ADFS is configured, and SQL is configured, and according to best practices, they had the best practice analyzer running against it. So it was really, really good thing. Like one button push, 3-server deployment, boom, done. And I'm paying for that subscription, so charge was never an issue. I don't know why they decommissioned this project. I thought paired with the data expert service, that would have been a really valuable addition. Really valuable. Do you see data expert service making on premises?
Yeah, I
there is
don't
no
know. You don't really need it since you got SQL there. Just read your SQL database or set up SQL application, right?
Yeah, right there. True. Silly of me.
I do know of at least 1 or 2 people who are looking to license Dynamics 365 marketing who are on premises and setting up an online org and replicating account or contact data between them.
Okay. And you would need a reasonable volume to actually for it to make sense. So you would use dual licenses, or was dual
Right.
use,
I think it makes
use
sense
rights.
for some companies kind of want their marketing people to be off in their own system doing their own thing,
Don't
but
we
ultimately
all?
want to bring the data together. And so that kind of gives them the ability to have that separation, but still have whatever data they want to bring in together to be able to see in one place.
Well, it sounds like on-prem release. It's something that download and play. I will definitely install it. But listeners out there, if you already configured a VM in Azure that allows all the goodness to be explored, please ping me. I'll buy you a drink of your choice if you let me have that.
But I think to me, my last thought on this, I promise, is to me, when there's a legitimate reason for there to be a difference in the cloud, like I think if it's an Azure service or a Flow or Power Apps, since that's part of CDS, that makes sense why that works in the cloud but doesn't quite work on premises. Sure, there's on-premise data gateways and things like that, but that's a legitimate difference why that right now works in the cloud but it doesn't work on premise. If it's just this feature like multi-select option sets, we have only put that in the cloud but we haven't put it online yet, that to me is more of an artificial difference. And to me, the biggest thing I like about this is it removes kind of the artificial differences, and we can still sell the cloud on the merits of being in the cloud and the intelligence features and the integration with other services.
Oh, great. Before we say goodbye, the thing I learned today is that no matter how hard we tried, no matter that we published tip 178, people still, not only people, some of the Microsoft official documentation is wrong about reparenting. People still have no idea what reparenting means. The cascading behavior.
Right.
And for the exact tip number, that wasn't ignore 178. I will find it, but 189. So that would be like 4 years ago or more. Right, so more than 4 years ago, people still have no idea what reparenting means.
No, and it's a fairly useless permission anyway.
Not in lockdown systems. I wouldn't think so. Are you saying with the introduction?
It's useless. It's useless because nobody knows what it is, so nobody pays attention, sets it correctly.
Yeah. Basically, people would set it incorrectly because they don't understand what it is, and by setting it incorrectly, you make it absolutely useless. So, yeah, here we go, catch-22. So if you don't know what it means, go reread 189 and make it useful in your deployment. I would think it would look, to me, the use of that would be more limited with the introduction of team sharing and things like that. So that kind of solves a lot of problems where reparenting makes sense. Cascading reparenting makes sense. But other than that, yeah, I was surprised. Like there is a feature there, and I actually attribute a lot of that to incoherent administrative UI to set up these and some other features in that area. So UI like bundled unrelated concepts. I would say reparenting has no relationship with any other cascading behavior. It's not a cascading behavior. It doesn't cascade.
People think it means assign. People think it means reassign.
Correct.
And so, but the reason, I can think of theoretical reasons why you want to do it. And basically it means like if you change a parent, do you want access to the child record to be granted to the new parent? And correct. So it kind of is the cousin of reassign.
There is no cascading. It's kind of uncascading,
Right.
You go another way
around. It kind of can create orphans, though, too, because if you turn it off and you say don't reparent the contacts, you can have scenarios where you have a new owner of the account and he can't see any of the contacts because the reparenting didn't cascade. You're right, it doesn't really cascade.
Yeah, here you go. So that's something I learned today. So if you think you know everything about CRM from version 3 upwards, think again. Because I found that some of even I didn't know some of the features. The other day, I think I tipped it. I found the other day that I was under the impression that hiding lookup from advanced find, making it non-searchable, is the same as making relationship non-searchable. Turns out they're two different things.
Wow.
Well, you didn't know, did you?
No, I didn't. But one of the reasons I write tips of the day is because this one, exactly 189, is one that I have Googled that and found the tip that I wrote about that in 2014. When I'm teaching somebody about security or relationship settings, and I say, I need to explain this, but I know if I explain it, I'll mess it up. So I Googled to get it, and the only thing I find is our tip. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a lot to learn. Well, anyway, it's been great chatting for a change in the afternoon to you and not in the wee hours of the morning. That's been great talk about on-prem. On-prem is alive and well.